Okay, so I haven't seen one yet, and I shoot the camera. So I'm gonna make this video for everyone that's wondering, if those of you, I should say, who are even considering a Q3, and you want to know, now that we've had firmware 4.0, if it's even worth it. I'll cut to the chase right away in the first few seconds of this video and say, for me, yes. For you, good chance that it is. If that's the only thing that has been holding you back from getting a Q3 is the autofocusing, the lack of more modern features like bird detect, automobile, and things like that, you can rest assured that firmware 4.0 is giving you what you've probably been wanting to help you make that further decision toward getting yourself like a Q3 or a Q343 or a Q3 monochrome. So holiday season's going on right now. I went down to Detroit, down to the Campus Martius area. That area of Detroit has really blossomed over the years with the retail stores and restaurants, and the fact that the park that's there, during the winter, they turn into a winter wonderland in essence, with a skating rink that is set up, and then across the street from the skating rink, they have a little shopping area with a tent you can go into and get warmed up if you're cold, have some warm up drinks and things like that. And then of course, back over by the skating rink, you have the tree that is lit for the holidays just before Thanksgiving for us Detroiters, or folks visiting the downtown Detroit area down by Woodward. A lot of opportunity for sure to see how well I would get along with the autofocusing. Now, I decided to, it's a simple thing, of course, to go out, good light, and be close enough to your subjects that even with the current autofocusing, it would do well. I decided to go as it got close to dusk and into the night to shoot. Now, you guys, if you follow the channel, I've been shooting black and white for the past 2 months now, and when this video comes out, it'll probably be the first of the year, January, and I'll be shooting black and white in January as well. But that still doesn't mean, because I wasn't shooting color, that you wouldn't see the capabilities of the autofocusing. Now, when it comes to the user interface, they gave it the same interface as the SL line, is what I'm hearing, which also got an update as well. And I will say, although this is slightly different from what it was, it used to have 10 boxes down here instead of the 8, and it's up at the top. You know, you had your video and photo slides or selection, you can make, but you also had up there what mode the camera was shooting in, which is now moved down into a box. So for me, getting used to going from 10 to 8, and then the fact that one of the 8s is my shooting mode, that takes away from what I was used to seeing on the previous interface, but it doesn't take away from the experience. I actually like this interface even more. I do like, as I cycle through my screen settings here, using the middle button here, and hopefully you're seeing this somewhat good. But as I cycle through from those, you know, I do like what it shows on the screen when I have all of the displays, if you will, showing from the top row to the right side. And the fact that they're utilizing the touchscreen the way I think everyone that has a touchscreen on their camera should. I should be able to touch on a feature on the touchscreen and it takes me to it. Kudos to Leica for doing that. The fact that I can touch on, like for instance, here's my aspect down here, you know, again, hopefully you guys can see that it's at 3.2. I can touch, press, and it brings up a sub menu on the right for me to quickly switch between the different framing sizes from 4.3 to 1.1 to 16.9. I like that. I like that. That is awesome. I think the implication of the touchscreen functionality on this camera has made that alone The interface alone upgrades have made this a new camera to me. The autofocusing features have added to that for me. So that's kind of how I feel about firmware 4.0. Now, while I was out doing these images, and I'll start going through them, I was extremely excited about the results. I saw that the autofocus was latching on quicker if I decided to use it. Now guys, when I go out and do my photography, street photography, travel, stuff like that, I don't use the tracking features for the focus options that much. To the point I'm probably saying that wrong, right? I don't use eye autofocus face that much because usually I'm in an environment where there's a lot of faces, and I don't want the camera to choose a face that's not my subject. And it's the same for the other ones, bird, all of that stuff, automobile. I don't really use those because I'm using it in an environment where it's too many of the subject, and the camera will focus on what it feels is what it thinks I'm focusing on. Now, granted, some of the camera brands like Nikon, which I'm shooting right now on the ZR, you can actually have it such that it only comes into play inside the main focus square, which I think is a great setup that Nikon has. I love it on the Z8, I love it on the ZR. You know, it's great that you can have the focus square, then have your tracking perspective on, and it says, hey, you're looking for eyes? Well, I'm only gonna latch on the eyes inside this focus square. Now, I did come to the realization that you can also do that with the Q3, so that's great as well. You can have your focus square set up depending on your tracking mode, and when you put your tracking perspective on, whether it's eye or face, whether it's body or so forth, it will pick that up once it's inside that tracking square, which is fantastic. Kudos to them again. They really upped the game on this. Now, as I went out and did my images and they started to go from, we'll say just before blue hour into night, the focus on the camera was fantastic. My settings in some cases may have been a little under on my autofocus settings, so I did have to bring things up in post, like this image right here of this young man holding what I believe is his brother, looking at his iPhone. You know, that original image was very dark, and I had to bring the shadows up so that I can make this image something for myself, which I was able to do because, again, we have a high megapixel sensor. Now guys, I went out and I took 118 images while I was out and about walking around looking for, you know, what I consider was a good composition. And of those 118, I kept 104 of them for me to share or do something with in the future. So we're looking at just under 90%. So like, what is that, 88% we'll say, right? If I look at my calculations, right? 88% of the images I held on to. Now, in the past, I would have had less than that for sure with the Q3 43, only because I would have not gotten in focus images the way I've gotten it this time. You know, I shoot aperture priority, so I got an auto ISO on. I'm letting the camera determine what the shutter speed is. So I'm at the mercy of the camera in this situation, whether it picks a shutter speed that's too slow, because it's trying to get a perfect exposure, right? Now this image with the little boy and his brother, I believe his brother was at 1/80th of a second. I'm at f5 because I wanted to try to keep as much detail as I could. And it shot it at ISO 200 and I had to play with it. Another image, you heard me talk about this on the previous video, with some young ladies that had got a drink from the Cadillac Square area, they call it, across from the tree, and they were coming across the street toward the tree and they had their drinks, and I liked what I saw as far as the subjects, and started taking some images going from one young lady to another. And my favorite image turned out to be the young lady to the left that I showed on the previous video, and I just love the way it focused on her face as she brought the cup up to her mouth. The cup, it looks like it's in more focus than anything else, but again, at 1/80th of a second, I got good motion blur in there too. So I really like that image. As I went through the evening, taking pictures of different things, seeing how it would go, really making sure that I tested it as best I could the way I shoot, which is as it gets darker, I want to know that it is capturing the subject in the detail that I want, or at least close enough with the exposure that I can come back and post because of that sensor, and be able to pull my subject back out of the shadow, and with the shadow slider, with the blacks, and even exposure slider for a global change. And I was able to do that on some of the images as it got darker. My favorite one as it actually got dark was a shot of a young man with his daughter, and they were skating, and there was a LCD, or at least a projector screen in the back. It was blown out, but it caused a glare on the lens, but I still was able to get the dad in detail, and you still could see enough of the young lady. I think it made for a great photo, and it did that. It latched on. I was pointing at the dad with my focus square. It locked on to that person, and then bam, it caught some images. And then there were some young ladies that were taking images. Well, there was a lot of busyness with lights around them reflecting off the glass, and I was still able, even though it was a little dark on the original image, I was able to pull it in, and as far as bring my shadows back up, bring my exposure up some, or my blacks up some, and bring that detail back because of that sensor, and see what I feel is a really good picture. And the fact that it latched in on the girl that had in this image, the light jacket. So all in all, I'm pretty excited about the firmware update. I'm pretty excited about what they've done with the interface, what they've done with the autofocus on the Q line. I understand the SL line got a similar update and enhancement. Good job, to the point that I actually said to the local Leica rep here in Michigan that I deal with, Matt, that I want him to put in feedback to Leica that I think they should put the interface as best they can on all the digital cameras. The M, the Q, or not Q, but the Deluxe line. You know, all of their cameras should get that interface update. That's how much I enjoyed the interface. It was already kind of a clean interface for Leica. This cleaned it up that much more, which I'm impressed with, that I like. So let me know in the comments if you guys have a Leica Q or SL. Do you agree? If you don't, again, and you have questions you want to ask me about the update and how I'm getting along with this camera since the update, ask your questions, let me know, and I will see you guys on the next video.